Hello and welcome to the Sarah Seams podcast. My name is Sarah. I'm coming to you from Columbus, Ohio, where I live with my partner Troy and our cats Alex and Moo. This is my little corner of the internet where I share all about my crafty projects. It's mostly knitting, but there's often sewing, quilting, whatever else sprinkled in. Today is a special episode. This is Everything I Knit in 2023 Part 2, and today we're going to be covering Everything I Knit in 2023 Part 2, which is garments and shawls. So yesterday or the day before, I released Part 1, which was covering socks and accessories. Today we are doing garments and shawls, but that does also include a couple of cowls, just the larger accessories, to help even it up. And the reason I decided to split it into two videos, and even the reason I decided to make the videos in the first place, is mostly so I can document for myself everything I made in 2023, but also I hope that you find something that inspires you, or a pattern or yarn that piques your interest and gets your creativity flowing into the next year. But I did decide to split it up into two videos because I did finish over 60 knitted items this year, which is a lot. And I just want to take a moment to say too, I know this is a time of year where a lot of people are making these videos and it can seem overwhelming and it can be hard not to compare yourself to others regarding the speed at which you finish projects or the amount of projects that you finish. And oh, there's Mel saying hi. My intent is never to make anyone feel bad or like they aren't as good of a knitter or something if they didn't finish 60 projects. No. I am fortunate to have a lot of knitting time and therefore have a lot of finished objects. I think seeing them all together like this has made me realize that this pace is probably not sustainable even for me. This was my first year as a pretty intense knitter. Like if I was not doing something, I was probably knitting. And I think I've settled into a more comfortable pace now that I say that, but I'm probably still gonna knit all the time. Anyway, point being, I am showing all of these and sharing them in the hopes that they will inspire you and never to make anyone feel like they need to be producing this many things. That is not the goal. So with that said, I hope that you enjoy seeing these. I do anticipate this being a bit of a longer video, so I hope you'll bear with me to the end, but yeah. So let's jump in. What I'm gonna be sharing, and before I forget, because I did in the last episode, if you're interested in following along with my creative adventures, you can find me on Instagram at Sarah_seams or on Ravelry at Sarah Ribble. And I will have all the patterns linked in the description below this video, or you can find them on my Ravelry page. So today, garments, shawls, larger accessories. I'll be sharing them in chronological order of which they were finished. So we'll kind of go through the year, jumping back and forth between garments and shawls. And then for each pattern, I'll be sharing the pattern name, the designer, the size range available, what size I made, the yarn, how long it took me to make it, if I would make it again, and any other notes or comments I may have about the pattern. I will also be referencing my notes a lot throughout this episode, so if you see me looking over, please know that's what I'm looking at. And with that, let's jump in. So the first garment I finished this year, very, very early in the year, was the Dorney Sweater by Rebecca Clow. I will put a video in here of me wearing it. All the garments that I still have, I will do that for. So this sweater is available from a 32 to a 67-inch bust. I made size 6, which was the 52-inch bust, giving me about 8 inches of positive ease. I have a 44-inch bust. The yarn is Derirum Natura Serrano, which is their Aran weight base. The color is quartz, and it took me about a month to knit it. This was a test knit for Rebecca, my first garment test knit. And would I make it again? Yes, I definitely would. I would actually like to make another one. So I have been reaching for this sweater more and more now that we've gotten back into the colder months. Here she is. So you can see that beautiful like soft pink color. At first I was worried it would be too close to my skin tone, but I found I really do enjoy wearing it. It has just like a very like soft, like ethereal kind of feel, even though it's this really heavyweight cabled sweater. But I think that's kind of like, I don't know, it's a bit paradoxical. Like it's this very soft color, but then it's this very like sturdy garment, and I really love that. So I will say, if I were to knit this again, I would probably knit a few less rows of ribbing on the neckline or cast on a few more stitches just so it came a little bit further out. It does come up a little bit high on my neck for my liking, but I still wear it a lot. Doesn't prevent me from wearing it. It fits very, very well, and I feel like I just love everything about it, honestly. The length is perfect, the weight of it I love. If I know I'm gonna be outside, it's going to be cold, or I just want to feel really like comforted, I will put this sweater on. The yarn is holding up beautifully. You might be able to see here on the arm, there's a bit of a snag, but really there's minimal pilling. I'm trying to even see, there's a teeny bit of pilling under the arm, but nothing bad at all. I love this yarn. I would love to use this yarn again, and I love this sweater. So started the year off with a bang. I will point out to you that there is a cable, a miscrossed cable on the back. Can you find it? Can I even find it now? I just looked for it. Oh yes, right here. So there is a miscrossed cable right there. But I decided to just leave it. I don't think anyone but me will ever notice that, and that's the little hand knit touch in this one. If Moo is yelling, I'm really sorry. He might just do that. So that is the Dorney Sweater by Rebecca Clow. All right, next one is a piece I no longer have, so I'm just gonna put a picture in. This is the Able Cowl by the Woolfolk Design Team. It is available in one size. The yarn is Quince & Co. Osprey in the color Twig. It took me 2 weeks to knit, and I don't know that I would make this again. Let me pause and see if I can get him to stop meowing. Okay, so can't promise he won't come back, but we'll see. Okay, so yes, the Able Cowl. This one, I fell in love with the design, and I still love the design. I think it's very eclectic looking, how there's like patches of cables and baubles and garter, and I love how it looks. I think I ended up not loving the color that I chose. This brown, I love browns, but they have to be just the right shade of brown for me, and it's a similar color to a sweater I'm about to show you in a minute, but it's just off. It's a little bit too cool, and yeah, I just didn't love the color, but mostly I ended up not loving the fit. Mine did turn out larger than spec by quite a bit, so I'm not sure what happened there. I was pretty on gauge as I was knitting, but it turned out pretty large. And what that resulted in was that the neck opening was too big. So when I was wearing it, it didn't actually provide any neck warmth unless I really like folded it. And I didn't like, well, I've got a cat hair on me now. I didn't like how that looked as much. So I have since gifted this one to a family member because I wasn't wearing it. So I've passed it along, but yeah, I don't know if I would knit it. I would knit it again. I love how it looks, but I'm not like eager to knit it again. Let's see. Next is my first Linto by Hiatella. Here is a video of me wearing it. It is available from size 38.5 to 67.25 in the bust inches. I made size 4 for this one, which is a 48-inch bust, giving me 4 inches of positive ease. The yarn is Camellia Fiber Co. Yak DK in the color Chocolate. It took me about a month to knit this, and I knit this as part of the Let's Linto Cowl, which was hosted by Rebecca Clow and Amy Palco earlier this year. They're both YouTubers, and I really enjoy this pattern. I have already made another one, but I will say there are a few things to know about it. So let me show you mine here. Here it is. Now this is my kind of brown. Rich, warmer brown. I just love it. It is beautiful. This is one of my favorite garments to wear. This yarn from Camellia Fiber Co. First of all, beautiful stitch definition. It is so luxurious and soft and just beautiful to wear and drapey. I just love it. I love it so much. I made another garment from it this year, which you'll see later. But yes, so this is the chocolate color. This is a DK weight yarn. This is size 4, and this sweater fits me so perfectly. I love it. I love this garment. I feel like this is one that I compare a lot of my other garments to now as far as how I want them to fit. So it has this double folded collar. It is a pretty basic raglan. It has kind of like a bracelet length sleeve and a cropped body with quite a bit of ribbing at the bottom. And yeah, I really do love it. I will say there is an error in the pattern, just to be aware of. So when you do the collar and then you do the short rows, and then once you start the raglan increases after doing the short rows, there is an error in the pattern. So I won't give too much away because it's not a free pattern, but just if you are going to knit this, something to look out for. One of the raglan increases is written wrong, but if you just care, like if you do what feels right, like if you do the same thing for that raglan that you're doing for the other 3, you will be just fine. It wasn't enough to dissuade me from making a second one, but just something to note. So yes, I love this pattern. I would definitely knit this size again. Yeah, it's just a good one. I don't know. I feel like so many people knit it this year, and I think it's pretty beloved. Oh, one note on the yarn, as much as I do love it, it is the yarn that pills the most out of all my garments. So you can see there is some pilling there at the underarm. It's not terrible, but I do have to de-pill it usually after every couple of wears, which doesn't bother me at all. To me, it is worth it for such a beautiful, comfortable, well-fitting sweater. So this is one of my most worn sweaters of the year. It's probably the most worn sweater of the year, if I had to guess. So yes, love that one. All right, next up is another Linto. So I won't give all the size information again, but here is the video of it. This was the second one I made, also during the Cowl, because they're that quick to knit. But for this one, I made the size 5, so I went up a size. I remember when I made the brown one, there was something about the fit I wasn't happy with, but in hindsight, I really can't remember what it was because I love wearing it so much. So I went up a size. The size 5 has a 50.75 inch bust, giving me closer to 7 inches of positive ease. And the yarn for this one is Kelborn Woolens Perennial in the color pink and Pearl Soho Tussock in the color Pink Joy, which is the mohair. It took me about 9 days to knit this. So this is one of the fastest garments I have ever knit for sure. I would definitely make another one with the same caveats as I said, that there is that slight error in the pattern, but I don't love the fit on this one as much. So the reason I was so motivated for this one is because this was earlier in the year. Hype was building for the Barbie movie, and there was a lot of this color on the runways, this super vibrant, like fluorescent pink. And I really wanted a garment in that color, so I decided to make one, and I made it in 9 days. So all the same details as the first one. However, this one, I don't like the fit on as much. It's a little bit too big. I also tried to make some modifications to the arm and didn't really know what I was doing. I cast on additional stitches under the underarm, I think in an attempt to widen the body, but what that really did was make kind of like some floppy fabric at the underarm that I don't love. So I definitely do still wear it. It's just a bit more oversized, doesn't fit quite as well as the brown one. But I do still wear it. It's very fun. I wish I could have worn it to the Barbie movie premiere earlier this year, but it was quite warm. The yarn's holding up great. And one thing I will just point out as like a personal skill improvement, A lot of my earlier sweaters, I used DPNs for the entire sleeves, and I would get some like laddering like you can see here, but I do think that's something I was able to improve throughout the year as I knit more garments. There is less of that. Again, something no one else notices but me, but something I know that I've improved upon, and that's nice to note. All right, next was another test knit for Rebecca Clow. This is the Corin Cardigan. It is available from a 34 to a 64-inch finished bust. I made size 5, which was the 47.5-inch bust, giving me 3.5 inches of positive ease. I used Sandusgarn Duo in black, which is a cotton wool blend. It took me about 11 days to knit this, which in hindsight seems crazy because I remember it being a bit of a struggle. This was the most, I think this was the most complicated garment, or not, it's not complicated. I think I struggled the most with this garment out of everything that I knit this year. I am really happy with how it turned out. So here it is. I don't know if you could see in the video, but I used these nice little like tortoiseshell-y kind of buttons. I love how this looks. Like, this truly looks like something I would have like bought in a store. However, the lace pattern, while easy to memorize and not complicated, does make your shaping of the front and back panels a bit tricky. I think especially the front panels on the V-neck version, because there is also a straight neck, like a round neck version available. I think people struggled more with the V-neck version than the round neck version, because shaping this panel in this lace decrease, it was just very, very easy to get off count for your stitches, and it was a bit tricky. I know some people had to redo the front panels like multiple times. So I am, in hindsight, surprised I finished this in 11 days. This was my first cardigan that I knit. The yarn is really, really great. This is an excellent summer yarn. It's so, so soft and drapey and comfortable. It does grow a lot, but it also doesn't pill as much as other cotton yarns I've used. There's a little snag in it there, but not much pilling. But like I said, it does grow. So it has become quite a bit longer than I probably would have liked it to be. And I don't like how it looks open as much, so I do really only wear it buttoned up. And the way that I found to style it, given how long it ended up being, that I like the best, is like in this image where I kind of just overlap the fronts instead of buttoning them, and then tuck it into a skirt, or tuck just the front into a skirt. And I think that looks really cute. Or just buttoning it up and doing like a French tuck into a skirt with the front. Yeah, so really nice pattern. I don't know if I would knit another one. I do really like how it looks, but I feel like having it in black, it's such a like kind of singular like staple piece. I don't know that I would really need another one in a color. So I'm not sure if I would knit it again, but it is a really nice, well-written pattern. If you're looking for a like mesh kind of summery garment, I would recommend it. Okay, next one is the Pressed Flowers Cowl by Amy Christoffers. So I've had my eye on the Pressed Flowers cardigan, you know, forever. And then Amy released the cowl, and I cast it on immediately just because I wanted to try the motif and see if I would like it. So this is available in 3 sizes. It's 3 different lengths. I made the size 3, the longest version, which is 58 inches in length. The yarn, I don't know what the yarn is. It is a mystery wool. And I'll put a picture in of this if I haven't already. It took me about 5 weeks to knit. The mosaic stitch is a bit slow going. Would I make it again? Yes, I definitely would. Probably the medium size. So here it is. So how to show this? So you start with just the basic mosaic stitch, and then you kind of go into the more sparse floral and then the more dense floral. So when you're wearing it, and this is why I feel like I would make a smaller size next time. So if I just put it around my neck, I can kind of cross it over like this under my coat and have it like tucked into my coat. if I want to wrap it again, this is probably how I would wear it if I was wearing it like for warmth. Definitely would wrap it twice. And it does look really cute that way. I just feel like the medium size might be a little bit easier to style. But I am really happy with how it turned out. The wool is quite rustic. It's a very sticky, like farm kind of wool. Again, I don't know where it's from. I got it secondhand, but I do love that it's just the two-tone, like this the lighter kind of heathery blue and then the darker heathery blue. But I would love to make a version with a color changing or like variegated yarn as well. So yeah, would definitely knit again. Highly recommend. I did start the pressed flowers cardigan earlier this year and didn't get much done on it. So yeah, needless to say, there are a lot of other projects I worked on this year that got frogged or didn't get finished, and they're still hanging out. So that was one of them. I do think I'll come back to it eventually. Next one is the Friday Shrug by Jackie Rose, and I just have a picture of this one. It comes in one size. Oh, the cats are knocking things off. I'm gonna ignore that. Goodness. They were so good yesterday for the other video. Anyway, so it comes in one size. I used this with sock weight scraps. It took me about 5 days to knit. And what do I think about it? So I'm showing a picture because I no longer have this. I ended up donating it. It was so fun and addictive to knit. I had a really good time picking out what yarns I was going to use and what order I was going to fade them in. And I had so much fun knitting it. Like I said, I knit it in like 4 or 5 days. But I didn't love the fit and I didn't love wearing it. So this was part of a series of shrugs that Jackie released earlier this year. This one was designed for a DK weight yarn with this like marled fade, and the fact that it only came in one size meant that it was a little bit too small for me to wear it like comfortably in the way that it was meant to be worn. You just pull it on over your shoulders. I definitely could have benefited from like a few more stitches cast on to make it a little bit wider because it didn't want to stay on over my shoulders. It kept riding up, and maybe that's just the nature of a shrug, but also being in these crazy colors, I just kind of was keeping it right here on the back of my chair in the sewing room. And over time, it got kind of stretched out and distorted from being on the back of the chair, and I just wasn't wearing it. So I did end up donating it. And I don't know that I would knit it again just because I don't think it's a garment that I would wear a lot. But it was very fun to knit. Okay, continuing with some summer garments. Next we have the Outline Tee by Jessie May Designs. Here's a video of me wearing it. It is available from a 40-inch bust to a 72-inch bust. I made the size 4, the 52-inch bust, giving me 8 inches of positive ease. The yarn I used is, I think, the recommended yarn, Ritual Dyes Undine, in the color Jewel Weed, which is a linen cotton blend. And it took me about 9 months to knit this because I had cast it on last summer and it hibernated all winter and spring, and then I picked it back up when it started getting warmer. So it did not actually take me 9 months to knit it. It probably was hibernating for about 6 to 7 months. Although it is a bit more labor intensive than it looks. I would definitely knit another one with a few caveats. So here it is. The color is so fun. It's not a color I would have normally grabbed for myself, but I do love this really vibrant orangey red as a summer color. And I've been trying to find ways to wear the colors that I normally don't reach for, like orange specifically. I think yellow is just forbidden to me, but I think I could make orange work, particularly in this shade. So here she is. You can see how lovely and beautiful the drape is. The fabric is really, really nice. I love this yarn. I would definitely knit with this yarn again. I know a lot of people struggle with cotton and linen, find it harder to knit with. I don't really find that for myself. But the beautiful thing about this garment are the drop stitch details. So you can see they go around the neckline, down the front, around the sleeves and down the side, and then down the back as well. And these are very easy. It just does require you to be accurate during your setup rounds, because you basically skip the stitch on the first round and then you don't, or maybe it's the last round, I can't remember. And then you don't really know until the end if everything's like lined up. So just as long as you're being careful during those important setup rows, you should be fine. This garment is knit bottom up, which is not my favorite construction for the reason I'm about to share with you. It's too long. So I wish that this was about 3 inches shorter. And I know I'm not the only one that's found that to be the case. I cropped it even from what was recommended, and it's still a bit too long. So you could have seen in the video of me wearing it that it looks really cute over, honestly, I have ended up wearing this more as like a lounge top with like sweatpants around the house. It does look cute with like a elastic wide leg pant. But if I'm wearing it with a skirt or over a dress, I do have to figure out a way to kind of do a French tuck or tuck the whole thing in, just because it is a bit too long. So I still wear it. I do love it. I think it's beautiful. I would knit it again. I'd really love to make a black one actually, but I would crop it even more. And it is a fingering weight garment. So like I said, it does take quite a bit of time to knit, but it is so nice to wear. It's so breezy, and I do recommend it. This was my first time knitting one of Jessie's patterns, and I do get the hype. It is really nicely written. There are very minimal finishing details, which I appreciate as well. So yeah, I would recommend it. Just note you might want to take an extra inch or 2 off the length, especially if you're knitting it in a yarn like a cotton linen or cotton or something that will grow a lot. Okay, next one is my Roa Jumper by Irene Lynn. Here's a video of me wearing it. This one is available from a 46-inch bust to a 63-inch bust. I made size 4, the 56.75-inch bust, giving me almost 13 inches of positive ease, which is the recommended amount. This is meant to be very oversized. The yarn I used was Juniper Moon Farm Cumulus in the color Pearl, which is one of the softest things I've ever touched in my life. It is literally like wearing a cloud, as the name would suggest. It took me about 3.5 weeks to knit this, and would I make it again? Yes, I kind of have in a way, which I'll talk about later. So here she is. I have to say, this is probably one of my other most worn garments this year. I wore this a lot in the summer, especially to work, because it keeps you a bit warm, but it's not hot. And our office tends to be very cold. So you can see that really beautiful stitch pattern. The yarn gives pretty good stitch definition considering it's a single ply yarn. It has these, what look to be short sleeves, but when worn are almost full length. I'm really happy with this. If I knit if I were to knit it again, I would probably go down a size, just because it's a bit more, it's very oversized. Like, I don't know that for me it really needed to be quite that oversized, and it took a very long time to knit because there were so many stitches on the needles. And I would cast on fewer stitches for the neckline and increase when necessary, because when I first finished it, the neckline was so wide, it was just falling off my shoulders. So I did go in and add a bit of elastic thread around the neckline. I think I might actually add, so I added it, if you can see right here on the bottom of where the neckline is joined, I might add one along the top as well. And that has really helped to hold the neckline in and make it so I'm less like fidgety with it while I'm wearing it. I will say I do also chuck this in the dryer occasionally to shrink it up a bit, because this yarn does grow quite a bit. The garment is heavy. There's a lot of yarn in here, and so it does grow, but every once in a while I'll just chuck it in the dryer and it shrinks back up. The other thing about this yarn, well, it is the softest thing you've ever touched in your life. It does pill quite a bit. And I don't know about the longevity of this garment. It is looking a little bit worn already after just one season of wear, and that's because of the single ply yarn. Maybe you can see it just looks a little bit matted. Like you can see there's a little bit of fluff on the surface, and it looks fine still now. I think I can get another couple years of wear out of it, but I don't know that it will be a really long lasting garment. Hopefully you can see the pilling there on the edge. So pilling is definitely a problem with this yarn, but it's so nice to wear. I think it's worth it. All right. Next up, I knit a lot of Rebecca Clow garments this year, especially in the first half of the year. I do really enjoy her designs, and they're all very size inclusive, which is wonderful. So number 10 is the Tulsa Tee by Rebecca Clow. Oh, did I even say how many were on the list? Let's see. 27. So I might need to pick it up a bit. Okay, this is my first Tulsa Tee by Rebecca Clow. Let me get back to it. Okay. Here's a video of me wearing it. This one is available from a 31.5 to 66.75 inch bust. I made the size 4, the 43.5 inch bust, giving me a ½ inch of negative ease. So the pattern is recommended, I think like 0 to 3 inches of positive ease, but this was the closest size to give me positive ease, so that's the one that I knit. The yarn is Noro Kakagori, which is a cotton blend. Took me about 2 weeks to knit, and would I make it again? Yes, I have, and I would again. So here it is. This was the first one I made, a real quick little cast on, and I really love it. I have some similar comments about this yarn as the previous yarn, but it is beautiful. I mean, just look at those colors. I bought one ball of this, which it was 200 grams, I think, or 300. It was a one big ball, and that was plenty with leftover to make the Tulsa. This one is pretty cropped, but it's just right for me to wear with like skirt, high-waisted pants over a dress. This is just a real simple little raglan tee, but it's so fun and addictive to knit. It's written for DK weight, which this is. The neckline was a bit wide for me on this one, so I did make some alterations on the next one, but it's just kind of like the perfect little simple raglan t-shirt pattern, and I anticipate making a couple more this summer. I already have plans, so yes, it's a great one. And this yarn is really, really fun. I love this yarn. It's very nice to wear. The one other comment, it does pill a bit, like I said, it's a cotton blend. The one other thing with this one though, and maybe you can see this, maybe not, it does bias. So because it's a single ply yarn, I don't know how to show this, it biases, which means when it's worn, it starts to rotate on a 45-degree angle. So I do notice I have to wash it a little more often than some of my other tops, just because I do tend to need to kind of reset that so it doesn't get too bad. Maybe you can, yeah, okay, here you go. So I just folded this down, this is the center front, and you can see the stitches are going on an angle at the bottom. That's what I mean when I say biasing. It doesn't bother me when I'm wearing it. Honestly, this is something I wear around the house more than wear out, but just something to note with this yarn. All right, next was the Floral mini shawl by Florence Sperling, which I actually forgot to grab, so let me go grab that real quick. Okay, so the Floral mini shawl by Florence Sperling. This was a test knit. I think this was the last test knit I did this year over the summer. Here's a picture of it. This was an in progress picture, but you can see some of the little bobbins. It is available in one size. I made this with some sock weight scraps that I had in my stash. Took me about 4 weeks to knit because that was the test window. This is one that I think normally would have taken a lot longer, but because it was a test knit, I did push through to get it done in time. I am very glad I made it. I think it's beautiful, but this was my last test knit, and I think I'm really trying not to do anymore. As much as I do kind of enjoy them, I think it pushes me in a way that I don't like, and sometimes I have to push through some like hand pain to finish a test knit, and that's not something that I want to be doing. So this was my last test knit of the year, and I'm hoping that I can stick to my guns and not do any more test knits, period. We'll see. So yeah, here it is. This pattern is all over intarsia. this beautiful floral design. It's very abstract. It kind of almost looks like camouflage, but there you can see the intarsia. There were so many ends to weave in. Here's what the back looks like for those of you that are curious. It's a little bit messy. I wasn't the cleanest with weaving in the ends, but I do think this was the most technically challenging thing that I knit this year. I really like intarsia. I like the way that intarsia designs look. I always have, but this one was particularly challenging just due to the amount of color changes required. So, but I have worn it a few times. I think it's beautiful. I usually wear it kind of like this. You just get these little hits of the color, and it's really pretty. And I know what a labor of love it was, so I do enjoy wearing it. I wish you could see more of it. Maybe I should find a different way to wear it. I suppose I could kind of drape it over like this or something, but I'm less likely to wear it that way. I think you can see a bit of it. So yes, I'm really proud of this one. I think it was a learning opportunity for me regarding the test knits situation, but I am so proud that I finished it, and I do think it's really beautiful. It's kind of like a winter floral. I don't know. I'm really proud of it. So would I knit it again? Probably not. This felt like a one and done kind of achievement, to be honest with you. But I would recommend it if you are looking for a challenging intarsia project. The result's beautiful, but it was complex. That one was a challenge. Lots of ends, lots of little bobbins. Okay, number 12 is Look at My Holes by James & Watts. So here's a video of me wearing it. This is available from a 35.5 to 67.5 inch bust. I made size 6, which was meant to give a 53.75 inch bust with about 10 inches of positive ease. Mine turned out much smaller than that. So I don't know if my gauge was really off or what. I will say right now I don't gauge slouch. I know that's blasphemous. Unless I know that I'm going to be like using a wildly different yarn and will probably need to knit a different size, I just don't do it. And for the most part, it hasn't led me astray. So I know that's probably irresponsible. Some of you will be shocked, but I am not really a gauge swatcher. The yarn is Drops Muscat. In the color, I'm not sure. It's like a real bright electric blue. It took me about 3 weeks to knit, and I would make it again. Possibly. It's a great pattern. I just don't know if I would knit it again for reasons I will explain. So here it is. The color, I think, so when I was trying all of these on to film these videos, I came to the realization with this that I need to rehome it because for a couple of reasons. One, the color is not quite right for me. This kind of more vivid, like more yellow blue is just not the right shade for me. And I wasn't wearing it for that reason and because it's very loud. And second, it doesn't fit quite the way I want. I wish, so I did knit the new version that James released this summer with the added short rows, which help, but I do still wish the neckline was wider. I don't love the feel of this cotton yarn. It's 100% mercerized, which makes it that shiny kind of cotton, but I don't love the feel of it when I'm wearing it. And I messed up some of the lace repeats, which most people would not notice, but it's like the only thing I can see and it bothers me. And it's right on the front, like right over the chest. So I would definitely knit another one. I'd probably go up another size. I'd probably knit it in like black or gray, and I would use a different yarn. But the pattern is well written. You do, it seems like it should be super easy breezy, but you really do have to pay attention to what you're doing. Kind of like with the Corin Cardigan, it's just really easy to get off count with your lace. And I didn't enjoy knitting it quite as much as I thought I would. So it's possible I would knit another one in black. I feel like that's something I would wear a lot, but as for now, I don't have plans to knit another one. and I think I will be rehousing this one. My pile of knits is getting very large over here. Okay, next one is one I don't have anymore because I gifted it. Oh my gosh, and I am getting absolutely covered in lint. I'm sorry. I will try to ignore that. I just was trying all the sweaters on and they're getting fuss all over me. So this is the Mange Sweater Junior by Petite Knit. I knit this for my friend's son. It is available in chest sizes 28.25 inches to 40.25 inches, which is about 1 to 2 years, all the way up to 13 to 14 years. I made the size 2 to 3, which was the second largest size, so he'd have room to grow into it. I used some fingering weight yarns held double, just scraps. And it took me about 7 weeks to knit, so it did take a bit longer than I expected because it's pretty oversized. So honestly, even at the smaller end of this size range, you're kind of knitting like a small adult garment. It's DK weight, you hold fingering weight together. I'm really pleased with how it turned out. This was my first time knitting a petite knit pattern. I have some issues with her regarding size inclusivity that would prevent me from knitting any of her women's patterns. However, I do think when it comes to kids patterns and men's patterns where it's a little bit harder to find a lot of variety in patterns, I'm a little bit more willing to use hers. And I did think the pattern was well written and I enjoyed knitting it. She does warn you in the pattern that because this is drop shoulder, you know, you knit the back and the front pieces before you join in the round, you knit those pieces flat. So she does warn you that when you switch from knitting flat to knitting in the round, to be careful of how your melange looks. And you can definitely see a difference in mine. So there is a bit of a darker stripe just below the underarms there that when I switched to knitting in the round, it just did kind of change how the yarns were looking together. And I think I was trying to over manage it in all honesty. Like when I stopped worrying about it and just went back to knitting, like that bottom chunk of the sweater, it kind of went back to looking fine again. So I would knit this again, and I'm tempted to knit the adult size for Troy, but I think I would just worry less about how the yarn is being held together and just kind of go for it. And I think it looks great. Like nobody else notices those kind of things except for us, the knitter. So yeah, I was very happy with this. I would knit another one. I kind of want to knit another one, just like the smallest size. I really have enjoyed knitting some kids garments this year. So yeah, that's the Mange Sweater Junior. Next is the Embrace Cowl by Andrea Mowry. This is available in 3 sizes, toddler, youth, and adult. I made the adult size. The yarn was 1 full skein of Destination Yarns postcard base in the color Venus. And then I had a little mini skein set. They were mystery. I don't know what colors they were from Explore Knits and Fibers. I had 4 or 5 little minis. And this took me a week to knit. And I loved this project. I loved it so much. So I held the postcard or the Venus color throughout. It was kind of a pinky mauvey color. And then I held it with the minis. So the pattern's designed to basically use like 12 mini skeins, like an advent or something. And they all kind of fade in and out. But I just improvised. I held the one color all the way through, and then I just striped in the minis, like half on each side. And I think it's so beautiful. I love the colors together so much. I enjoyed knitting it so much. It's just a garter tube basically with some slip stitches. At the end you seam the tube together, and it has this twist in the front. And I loved it so much I almost considered keeping it, but I had knit this as in mind to give it as a gift, and I did end up giving it as a Christmas gift to my aunt, and I think she really liked it. But I will definitely make more of these. I just need to figure out some yarn to make one with. But yeah, I loved this pattern and I highly recommend it. All right. Next up is my second Tulsta tee by Rebecca Clow. Here's a video of me wearing it. So again, this one's available from 31.5 to 66.75 inch bust. For this one, I made the size 5, so I went up a size from my previous one. That would be the 47.25 inch bust, giving me about 3 inches of positive ease. The yarn I used for this version was Knit Picks Cotton in the color Swan. So this is 100% cotton yarn, or maybe it's a cotton linen blend. Cotton linen blend, cotton, duh. Cotton linen blend, but mostly cotton. Like the Ritual Dyes Undine that I made my outline tee in, that is also a cotton linen blend, but that one leans more towards linen. It's much finer. It feels much more like linen. It's a little bit stiffer. This one feels very cottony. It took me about 12 days to knit this. And yeah, I definitely want to make more in the future. This one, however, is a little bit too long. So I went up a size, and I do think the fit is definitely more comfortable on this one. The other one is quite fitted. It had a bit of negative ease. I do prefer the fit of the size 5, but honestly, I think something in between would really be perfect for me. So maybe that's something to play with on my next version. For this one, I did knit a few additional rounds of neckline ribbing, and I think the neck on this one fits great. It has that simple raglan increase, the short sleeve. I decided to knit the body a bit longer on this one because I wanted to be able to tuck it in, and that is mostly how I wear it. I usually tuck it into a skirt or do a little French tuck. It'd be cute over a dress. If you had a belt, you could like do a little French tuck into. So I do use this one more as either a layering piece or something that I tuck in, but it's a really great basic. This yarn, I don't know that I would use the yarn again. It's a little bit heavier than I would like for a summer garment. I think one of these in the Ritual Dyes Undine or a linen yarn would be beautiful. I'd really like to try Durham Natura's linen yarn this year. That's on my list. But yes, a really great basic. I did get quite a bit of wear out of that one, and I will knit more Tulsas next year. Okay, the next one is hands down my favorite thing that I knit, or maybe even made, period, this entire year. This is my Alpine Bloom Tee by Caitlin Hunter. Here's the video of me wearing it. It is available from a 36 to 68 inch bust. I made size 4, which was the 48 inch bust, giving me 4 inches of positive ease. The yarns I used were Kelborn Woolens Camper in the color Driftwood Heather, that's the main color. And my color changing contrast color was Primrose Yarn Co. Homestead Sport Base in the color Spacesuit. It took me about 4 weeks, about a month to knit, which considering it's a fingering weight garment, all, you know, this huge colorwork yoke, I think was very fast. Would I make it again? Yes, I'd love to make 10 more. However, I feel like this design is so specific and so impactful and memorable. I don't know that there's really place in my wardrobe for more than one. I have considered making a true summer version that would be made out of like cotton or linen, and I may still do that. So here is my Alpine Bloom. I just will never get over these colors. They make me so happy. The colors, the colorwork motif, the lace detail. I just love everything about this so much. I have worn it several times, 3 or 4 times probably. I think because it has the short sleeves, it's maybe a little bit harder to style because I did use a woolly wool, even though a wool linen blend was recommended. But I think I have worn it more than I expected to, honestly. And the sleeves hit me about elbow length, but I can't get over this beautiful neckline, this color work. I mean, this was my first real major stranded color work project, and I just couldn't be happier with how it turned out. The lace on the sleeve is so beautiful, and the hem, it turned out the perfect length. I did add one detail. So at the hem, it was supposed to just have this little bit of ribbing. I did add a row of eyelets before the ribbing to match that detail on the sleeve and the neckline. So that was the one little change that I made. I do think that in general, round yokes don't fit me as well as raglans or drop shoulders or some other sweater constructions. I don't like how the hem of the sweater ends up also being rounded. So I did block this quite aggressively to try and bring the sides down and straighten out the hem a bit. It doesn't bother me enough that I don't wear it. I just think round yokes are unfortunately not the best fit for me or my preferences, but I think it is the only way to get something that looks like this, and I was able to make it work for me. So I am so pleased with this. I was just like possessed by it for a month. Like I couldn't put it down, and I just love it. So if you have not made this, I would recommend it. I made the Alpine Bloom hat with my leftovers, which I showed in the previous video. I was tempted to make the winter version that Caitlin Hunter released, but I do think I might make another summer version, maybe like navy blue with white flowers or something like that would be really pretty. So I might have to make another one, and this will be my winter version, and then I'll have a summer version. We'll see, but it is my favorite thing that I made this year, and I'm really proud of it. So that is that. Next up is the bird sweater by Pernille Larsen. Here's a picture. Pernille is one of the women behind Knitting for Olive. This little sweater is available from a 23.5 to 31.5 inch chest. That is about 1 to 6 years in age range. I made the smallest size, size 1, using just some fingering weight yarn scraps from my stash. It took me about 12 days to knit, and I would definitely make it again. It's so cute. It's one of the cutest things I've ever made. I love the little bird. This is a little drop shoulder sweater, DK weight, and I knit this for a different friend's son, and it's just very cute. I don't know what to say. The little bird is intarsia, so if you wanted to dip your toes into intarsia, this would maybe be a good project. It just has that little bit on the front, and then the black parts like the beak and the eye and the legs are embroidered on afterwards. So yes, very cute. Just a fun project. I think I will definitely be knitting more kids' garments in my future for all of my friends, and that's something I enjoy doing. So this was a really fun, cute project. All right, next, number 18. We're getting to the final 10 or so. This is the Ariana Cardigan by Amy Christoffers. Here is a video of me wearing it. It only comes in 2 sizes. There is a 40-inch finished bust and a 65-inch finished bust. I made the smaller size, which was the 40-inch bust, which was about 4 inches of negative ease on me. However, I knew if I made the larger size, I would be absolutely swimming in it. So I did make the smaller size with the intention that I would just wear it open, which I do, and that's why I didn't put buttons on it. The yarn is Barocco Lanis. It took me about 4 weeks, but I'm gonna say that's flexible because my mom actually made all of the granny squares for me. So she made all the little individual granny squares, and then I added the outer rings. I added all the brown, basically. So I added all the outer granny rings and pieced them all together. And then I added the knitted finishings, so the sleeve cuffs, the neckband, and the bottom band. And as I said, I didn't add buttonholes or buttons. This has a really nice weight to it. It's super heavy. I have found that I really like the Barocco Lanis as a more budget-friendly yarn. I really like the colors of this. I honestly just kind of keep it in the craft room most of the time. It's kind of my home cardigan. I have worn it to work with a more like kind of styled outfit, but I just really like being able to throw it on. It kind of just feels like a big hug, and it's really nice to wear. The fit, I think, could be better. I wish there were more size options. I do understand why, because the granny squares are kind of one size. Like you could try changing up your hook size. I did change the layout a little bit, so I shortened the sleeve and the body by an entire row of squares. So there is some flexibility, but it is a free pattern also. So yeah, if you've been wanting to I love the combination of knitting and crochet. And I think this is a really good garment for that. I just think the fit is not the best for the way the pattern is written. Like it's a big oversized cardigan, and that's what it is. So for that, it's great. I do wear it quite often, especially on like the colder mornings around the house. So I'm really happy with it. I'm grateful to my mom for helping me out with it. And yeah. Next up, this is a really fun one. So this is I called it the Mabel sweater, but I invented this. So this is my Mabel sweater, designed by me. Here's me wearing it. There is no size range. I did loosely base this. I kind of used the Roa Jumper by Irene Lynn as a starting point for numbers. So I would say maybe a similar size range to that if you want, but I changed so much. So let's see. The yarn is Noro Silk Garden. The color is Ataru. It took me only 2 weeks to knit this because, again, I was possessed by it. I just couldn't put it down. I was inspired to make this by one of the sweaters that Selena Gomez character Mabel wears on Only Murders in the Building. So season 3 of that show came out in the fall, kind of late summer, and the knitwear in that show is next level. If you haven't watched it, it's a great show for sweaters because her character like is a knitter in the show. And she was wearing this one designer sweater that was a Jonathan Simkai sweater. It's really no longer available for purchase, but even if it was so many hundreds of dollars. It was out of budget for me. So I just decided I had to recreate it if I could. And this was what I ended up with. So I can also put a picture of the original Jonathan Simkai sweater here so you can kind of see how they compare. Mine is much more vibrant, but what I loved so much about the original was this huge collar, this huge like rib knit collar, and just like the texture and the sleeves. I just loved everything about it. So this was my first go at kind of coming up with my own pattern, or really heavily modifying a pattern to create something new. So it's kind of hard to show because it's so big. I talked about this a lot on some of my podcast episodes earlier in the year. I am really happy with how it turned out. It's not like a practical everyday sweater. It is definitely a statement piece, but I feel like the texture that I achieved and the general look of it are very similar to the one from the show. But I'm most proud of this collar because I just had to figure out how to do it, honestly, and figure out these increases. Like there was no reference I could find for anything like this. And I think it turned out just like how I hoped it would. So I'm really very proud of it. I do love the colors, even though they're a little bit crazy. The yarn it's so beautiful. Like if you want these colors, it's Noro. Like it just is, it's beautiful. It is so drapey and it has grown so much. The garment's quite heavy. It just kind of grows forever. I probably need to give it another wash. The sleeves, I wish I had decreased more. They're really, really wide at the ends, which makes it, not super practical to wear. I feel like I tend to wear it if I'm like going out somewhere cool and I want to like look kind of trendy, or I just kind of wear it around the house because it's cozy. But I wouldn't wear it to anything where I'm gonna be like doing a lot of things with my arms or hands because the sleeves are like all over the place. But that being said, I'm really proud of it for my first kind of improvised garment. And yeah, I do wear it more than I thought that I would. So that is my Mabel sweater. The other thing about the Noro I will say is my balls had a lot of knots in them. There were a lot of like breakages in the yarn, and it had so much VM in it, like so many little pieces of straw. It kind of drove me crazy having to pick them all out. So I would use the yarn again, but I would be very selective about what I was using it for. All right, number 20 is the Lana Vest by Irene Lynn. Here's a picture. This is available from a 45.75 to 53.5 inch bust, which is not the best. Would love to see this in larger sizes. Some of Irene's patterns, especially the newer ones, are size inclusive up to a 60-inch bust, but this one unfortunately is not. I made size 5, which was the largest size, giving me about 10 inches of positive ease, which was the recommended amount. The yarn was Jagger Spun Musum Falls in the color Ecru, which I got secondhand, and it's superwash wool, worsted weight. Took me about 2 weeks to knit, and I do really like it. I'm kind of struggling though to style it. So the cables are beautiful. I mean, I have like fallen in love with this braided cable. The stitching details are just perfect. There's another cable twisted the wrong way right here. I feel like every time I knit a cable garment, I get a messed up cable, but it's always on the back, so I just let it roll. But yeah, I ended up wearing this more as a top almost than, it's not as versatile as a layering piece as I hoped it would be. The other thing is the color. It, I think, is too yellow for me, unfortunately. So I love how it turned out, but I do think I might rehome this one as well. Just mostly because of the color, to be honest with you. I enjoy wearing it. I think next time I would go down a size, and I love it in the cream, but I think for me it needs to be closer to a white and less yellow. And that, I mean, Ecru is inherently a little bit more yellow, but I just don't like how it looks on me when I'm wearing it. So as much as I love how this turned out, I may be looking for a new home for this one. So that's a bit of a bummer, but I would knit Irene's vest patterns again. I love her designs, but I would probably look for one that's more size inclusive. Okay, next up, my first major shawl. So this is the Cinnabar shawl by Andrea Mowry. Here's a picture of it. It's just available in one size. The yarns I used, the main color was Lichen and Lace Heather Sport in the color Smoke. That's the gray, pretty rustic yarn. And then the contrast color was Baw Yarns Savannah Base, which is the fingering weight sock base, in the color Toasted Neutral. And I held that with a strand of Rowan Kid Silk Haze, just in off-white. And this is another one that I'm like so proud of. This was maybe my second proudest knit. I don't know. I'm pretty proud of a lot of the things I made this year, but this is one that I felt might not happen. So I was convinced I'd never be able to finish a super large shawl project, but local knitter and friend Jane convinced me that I could and recommended this shawl as my first project, and I just loved it so much. The pattern does not call for mohair. That was something that I added, but I just love the fuzzy halo that it gives, and I love this like gray and neutral that's soft. It's just perfect. I've been wearing it a lot. It's so incredibly warm. It is huge. Like it's so huge. This is kind of my like outside shawl. Like it's freezing and I'm going outside. This is the one I want to really keep me warm. I have been wearing it a lot. I love it. Very proud of it. I would definitely knit it again. I'm so tempted to cast on another one at some point in the next year. I love it very much. I would highly recommend the pattern. Half is brioche and half is garter, so it's just pretty mindless once you get the flow of it, and very enjoyable. Sorry, I'm having some allergies or something weird this morning. All right, next one, another huge shawl. Basically the only thing I knit in the month of October. Do you know what it is? It's the Geogradient Westnitz mkal shawl. Here's a little picture of it. This was available in one size. I bought a kit from Stephen and Penelope, the Mamanoki Yarns fingering base. The colors were strawberries and cream, framboise, grape, and cassis, and that was a purple gradient. Took me about 5 weeks to knit. It did take me an extra week or so to finish it at the end. I would not make this particular shawl again, just because again, it kind of feels like a one and done, but I will consider participating in the mkal again next year. We'll see. Here she is. There was so much controversy around this shawl, and if you are curious to hear more about that or not sure what I'm talking about, you can check out some of my previous episodes where I share more about it. But I did end up doing the granny square in the center, which I love. It just ended up being perfect with the shawl. It has these huge tassels. I truly love the finished product, but it is a real labor of love. And like I said, I barely knit on anything else throughout the entire month of October. And I really kind of feel like my last few months of the year, I didn't get to work on too many like, of course they're all personal projects, but October was like this shawl, and then November was some gift knitting, and then December was advent knitting. So I feel like a lot of the things I had started in the fall kind of got pushed to the side to work on these bigger projects. But I mean, I love the projects, but I do feel like I don't know that I want to commit. I don't know, we'll see. I did really enjoy working on this, aside from all the drama around the mkal, but I don't know if I want to give up my entire month of October to it again. But we'll see. We will see. Come next year, I'm sure I'll be wanting to do it again. So that is my geogradient mkal. I am, again, very proud of it. There were a lot of new to me techniques. I think this dip stitch is beautiful, the slip stitch texture here. I got to combine crochet and knitting again, you know, the tassels. Like, I have been wearing this. When I finished it, I was like, surely I will never wear this. It's crazy, but I have been wearing it so much around the house. Like, it's so soft and warm. Like, I just will put it on if I'm cool, like in the morning. I've really been loving it. Also, there was a mohair dare, so I did add mohair in here and a colorful one here. So I have been wearing it a lot more than I thought I would, and I think that makes me a little bit more tempted to participate again next year. Yeah, I'm very proud of that one. So I went from no large shawls to 2 in a row. Okay, next one. This is a knitting community fave. It is the Ranunculus by Midori Hirose. Here's a video of me wearing it. This was my first time making this, but it's got to be the most famous knitting pattern in the world. I don't know, it feels like it is. Definitely on Ravelry. So this is available from a 46 to 70.75 inch bust. I made size 3 for a 50.75 inch bust, giving me about 7 inches of positive ease. And I made this out of Nutiden held with mohair. So Nutiden, if you don't know, is I think it's Swedish unspun yarn. And it comes in these big cakes. I bought some secondhand. I bought 2 cakes secondhand because I was just desperate to try it. I kept hearing everyone talk about it. So I got some in this beautiful mauve color, and I didn't have a ton of it. So I was like, I'll make a ranunculus because it doesn't use much yardage. And I ended up holding it double with some secondhand mohair that I purchased. It took me about 2 weeks to knit, if I didn't already say that. And I have to be honest, I didn't enjoy knitting this as much as I expected to. So when I first started, and I won't give too much away because it is a paid for pattern, I had a really hard time getting started with the neckline. And also there are short rows in the front, which I kind of waffled if I wanted to include those or not. But ultimately I decided, since it was my first time knitting this so popular pattern, I was just gonna knit it to pattern and then see how I liked it. And that's what I did. And I actually love it. When I first finished it, I was like not sure about it, but I've been wearing it quite a bit in the past few weeks, and I really like how it fits, and I love this yarn. So the one thing I would change is I would omit the front short rows. So there are back short rows to lift the back, but then there are also these short rows in the front, and I believe the purpose of them is to make the shape of the neckline of the yoke detail more like dropped down, so it looks like you're wearing like necklaces. But I don't like how it raises the front neck. It sits a little higher than I want it to. Now this yarn is like pretty weightless, so I don't really feel it that much, which I think is why I can wear it comfortably, but I do wish I had omitted the front short rows. So you can see the yoke here has this really pretty lace detail. I had a little bit of struggle with the dip stitches at first, just getting those right. Has these eyelets. And then it has about a 3/4 length sleeve with this little bit of a short row wedge knitted in. I like that detail. I know a lot of people omit that, but I like how it fits. And then it has an I-cord bind off. My I-cord join is pretty messy, but again, no one will notice that. It's cropped, but it's just like the perfect cropped length. Now I will say this is a circular yoke, but then it has raglan increases, and I think that helps to straighten out the bottom hem, unlike on the Alpine Bloom where it has that really curved bottom hem. I think adding the raglan increases helps to straighten that out. So it does fit very, very well. The yarn combo is stunning. I love this yarn. I wasn't sure how much I would like wearing it, if it would be too hot, but it's just perfect. Like, it keeps me warm, but it doesn't make me hot, even if I'm wearing a coat over it. Like, I really love it. So I will knit more ranunculus. I definitely see a summer version in my future, and I will definitely knit with this yarn again. I need to get my hands on some more of this yarn. I love it. I would love if I could find some more secondhand, but we will see. It's just, I mean, the color is just so beautiful. I do anticipate some pilling, but none so far. It is just wonderfully fuzzy and fluffy. So I ended up liking this much more than I thought I would. The color is perfect for me. Would knit again for sure. I know most people probably have mini ranunculus by now. All right, we're getting down to the last few here. 2 more garments and 2 more shawls. So my second to last garment is the tessellated pullover by Andrea Mowry. Here is a video of me wearing it. This is available from a 33.75 to 69.25 inch bust. I made size 5, which was about a 50-inch bust, giving me about 6 inches of positive ease. I used, for the main navy, the main color, Barocco Lana's Light. Excuse me, my color changing yarn was Primrose Yarn Co. Homestead Sport Base in the color Hipster, and my fluff was a kind of medium denim-y blue. That was Fiberspace Cumulus, which is Surrey Alpaca, and I don't have the color for that. It took me about 4 months to knit this, and I was working on it pretty consistently the entire time. So it's absolutely beautiful. It's like singular, I think. Like, I know you can't buy a garment that looks like this. I mean, look at the color changing, look at the texture. Like, it's just, I feel like the camera also does not do this sweater justice. Like, the subtlety of the color changing, you just really can't pick it up on the camera. It has this beautiful exposed 3-needle bind off on the shoulder. It's a modified drop shoulder construction, so it does come in a bit here before the drop shoulder begins, which it makes it just fit perfectly. I think this is one of the most well-fitting garments that I've made. The shape of the neckline is perfect. I love it. The shape of the modified drop shoulder is so nice. It just feels like perfect when I'm wearing it, with one exception. I wish it was longer. So this is knit bottom up again, and this is why I just tend to not like bottom up construction. I even added extra length. I really tried to be careful with this one. When I looked at the schematic, I tried to figure out, okay, if it's this long from here to here and I want it to be this long, how much do I need to knit? I thought I really ticked and tied every box, but I think what happened was, using the recommended yarns, Andrea's grew a lot more than mine did, and I didn't use the recommended yarns. I think mine just grew less and therefore ended up not as long as I wanted it to be. So I can still wear it. I have a little chambray dress that I wear it over, and it looks very cute. However, I do think that given how wide the body ribbing is, and I actually shortened mine by 1/2 inch. It was supposed to be even wider than that. That also just gives the illusion that it's even more cropped than it is, because you're just seeing like all of this looks shorter than, you know, the sweater itself is. So I wish it was an inch longer, but aside from that, it is one of my favorite garments that I've made. I think it's very me, I think it's very unique, I think it's beautiful, and it feels great to wear. So I am very proud of this one too. It took a very long time to knit, small needles, mosaic knitting. I can show you the inside if you're interested. Here's what the inside looks like. Also beautiful, yeah. I'm very proud of it. I'm very happy to have it. I would not knit it again. This just kind of felt like an Everest project, you know, like it felt like it was a bit of a slog to get to the end on this one, but I am very happy with it. I was able to block enough length into it that I can comfortably wear it. I just feel like my outfit choices are a little bit more limited than they would have been if I had that extra inch or so in the length. I did just notice that it's getting a bit of pilling under the arms. Not a ton, but it does look like the Surrey part, the little blue specks, are starting to pill a bit. You can see there in the underarm, which is to be expected, but this one just might need a little bit of a debobble. So it's very nice to wear. It's beautiful. I wouldn't make another one, but I'm happy that I have this one. There is also a vest version if you are like, if you love the pattern, but you want less commitment, maybe go for the vest. Okay, last garment for the year. And it's New Year's Eve today, so I won't be finishing any garments today. So this will be the last one for the year. Another super popular knitting community pattern. This is the Love Note by Tin Can Knits. The size range is from, amazingly, a 24.5 inch bust to an 80.5 inch bust. So that is amazing. It goes from kids to a large size range. It's so great to see. I made the size large, which is a 48.5 inch bust, giving me about 4.5 inches of positive ease. And I made this, my second garment of the year, made in the Camellia Fiber Co. Yak DK, the same one I made my brown linto in. This time it's in the color Matcha, which is just this beautiful, beautiful green. And this took me 6 days to knit. So this is the fastest I've ever knit a garment. It's just a quick one. I don't know how to explain it. It really is just, it flies off your needles and it's really satisfying. I will make more. I already have plans for another one. So here it is. You can see I poorly woven my ends there. That's like, oh, that looks bad. Anyway, it's just beautiful. I mean, the lace pattern is very impactful, but very easy. Again, I wasn't sure about doing this lace pattern in this yarn because this yarn is very round, and I wasn't sure how much credit you would get for it, but I do think it works really well just because of how good the stitch definition is. Normally you would want like a 2-ply or maybe like a little bit of a flatter yarn for lace, but I think you still get a lot of impact from it. I did have some struggles on this pattern. I found the neckline was extremely tight the first couple attempts, so I did do some finagling with that. I also started with the neckline. In the pattern you're meant to do a provisional cast on and do the neckline last. I started with the neckline, so I kind of figured that out all at the beginning. I think in general the finishings on this sweater are tight, so the sleeve cuffs are also a bit tight. It's okay, I can get my hand in, but I would make those bigger next time. And the bottom hem bind off also. I just think everything could stand from being a little bit looser on the finishings. I do also wish that this one was about an inch longer. And what I've learned is that I've been cropping things a little bit too much. So I need to be careful, take my time, make sure that things are gonna fit the way I want them to. I've still worn this multiple times since I finished it. Again, it limits how I can wear it a little bit when it's just a little bit too cropped. Again, this yarn is pilling a bit, and that's just the nature of this super, super soft yarn. To me, it is worth it because it is just the best thing to wear. But yes, I see many more love notes in my future, and I recommend the pattern. I did try out the Tin Can Knits app, which is a newer launch that they've done, and it's pretty nice. There's definitely some things that could be improved upon it, but if you are someone that likes to look at knitting patterns on your phone, I'd recommend checking out their app. The love note is on there now, and it makes it pretty easy to work through. That's it for garments. I have 2 more shawls and then we're done. Eee. Okay. If you watched my Vlogmas at all, you probably saw me working on this. I am just going to show this one. This is the Turtle Dove Shawl by Sari Nordland. Look at that texture. Look at those bobbles. This comes in 1 size. I used 1 ball of Knitting for Olive Merino in the color Dark Moose and 1 ball of their Soft Silk Mohair in the color Brown Bear. It took me about 3 weeks to knit. This was released as a mystery pattern in the month of December, so Clue came out each week. And I may consider making this again as a gift if I had yarn I needed to use up. It was a fun, relatively quick knit. Lots of cables, lots of texture, and it's very cute. I mostly kind of just wear it like this, I think, under my coat. Just like a real cozy little neck warmer. Or I think I might try and get a little shawl cuff so I can wear it like this. Yeah, it's just a really nice little soft, warm mini shawl. Yeah, so that was one of the projects I finished during December. A couple of things I accomplished with this project. At one point I had missed a cable turn, a cable twist, and I was able to drop down like 5 or 6 rows and fix that, which was a big milestone for me. I was proud of that. And I also taught myself how to knit backwards so that I could knit back and forth through my bobbles instead of having to turn the work. And that made me like bobbles a lot more. So maybe there'll be more bobbles in my future. We shall see. All right, last one, and it's a crazy one. So this was another December project of mine I was sharing during Vlogmas. So if you were watching Vlogmas, you haven't seen this finished yet. So here, you're gonna see it now. This is, I just realized I started the year with a Rebecca Clow pattern, and I am finishing the year with a Rebecca Clow pattern. This is the Daft Days shawl by Rebecca Clow. And again, I'm just gonna show it here for you. This was an Advent project. So here it is in all its crazy glory. So I did a scrappy Advent swap that was hosted by Rebecca, and me and my partner exchanged 24 10-gram minis, scraps that we had in our stash. And I decided that I was going to open it every day and knit it into a shawl. So the main color that I used was just a skein of cream like farm yarn that I had in my stash, and then all the colors are from the minis. Yeah, so I knitted just a pattern. It's a really fun pattern, very intuitive. Once you learn it, I basically looked at it at the very beginning, and then I didn't look at it again until I needed to knit the border. The colors are cray. It's like super bright and crazy. But I think just as like a little thing to have around the house, like throw it over my shoulders, I think it turned out kind of cute. I don't know. Again, the natural white here is a little bit yellow for my taste, but I do, as I said, think this is something I will mostly just be wearing around the house. Like, I don't really anticipate wearing it out that often, but I do think it's nice. It turned out cute. It's definitely long enough to wrap around and wear as a scarf like this, or you could just kind of drape it around your shoulders, which is what what I've been doing the past couple mornings, like this. So it was very fun to knit. I would definitely knit another one of these, not in this kind of color palette, but I don't foresee myself doing another Advent project like this next year, just because one only has need for so many crazy shawls. But I am glad that I finished it, and I do think it'll be a great one to just kind of live here in the craft room, and I'll be able to throw it on when I need a little extra warmth. So yeah, that is it. That was the Daft Day shawl. That's everything. I'm scared to see how long this video is. That is all of the garments and shawls that I knit in 2023. I kind of can't believe that. That feels like so much, but I'm really happy to have all these things in my wardrobe. I think pulling everything out, trying them all on again, really reminded me which ones I love, why I love them. A couple, as I mentioned, that I might part ways with, and that's really good. I feel it's something I try to do fairly often, is to kind of take inventory of my wardrobe and go through it and get rid of things that no longer serve me, whether I just don't like them anymore, the color's not right, they don't fit, you know. I think it's good to have only things in your wardrobe that you love and fit you, so that it's easy to get dressed in the morning and you're excited about it. So I really can't tell you how thrilled I am. Before I really started knitting, it felt like an impossible mountain to climb to me. I had aspirations of being a knitter for a long time. So to see now all of these garments and accessories that I made with my own two hands is very special to me. I have made my own clothes for a long time as a sewist, but I think unlocking knitwear just kind of opened up the possibility that my entire wardrobe could be made by me, and that feels really special, and that's something that I'm working towards and getting pretty close to it. So on that note, I hope that you had a wonderful 2023 full of knitting and crafting, and I hope that you found something here today that inspired you, and if so, please let me know below. What was your favorite thing you made this year, or if you had a favorite of these patterns that I made. I'm really excited to continue the channel into 2024. It's been one whole year of podcasting, it's really hard to believe. It's been very fun, and thank you all so much for coming along on the journey with me. It wouldn't be nearly as much if I didn't get to read your comments and chat with you and get to know all of you. So thank you for watching and supporting the channel. And I'm really looking forward to what we do in 2024. I'll be back with a regular podcast episode in January, first couple of weeks probably. And until then, I hope you all have a happy new year and a great start to 2024. Bye.